In at number 10, Farrah Abraham. Farrah Abraham first received public attention after being cast in the reality TV series 16 and Pregnant back in 2009. Following that, she was recast in a sort of follow-up series called Teen Mom. Following the ending of that show after 4 seasons, she then released her debut studio album along with her memoir titled My Teenage Dream Ended. Oof. Although Farrah believed she needed to have multiple plastic surgeries to maintain her fame, in 2014 she admitted as much on the Bethany Frankel talk show. Another way she tried to maintain her fame was by leaking a sex tape. Unfortunately, information was then leaked that the whole thing was just a setup and then nothing really happened, other than her career on reality TV being pretty much over, because there's absolutely no way TLC, the Learning Channel, is going to partner up with her ever again. In at number 9, David Eason. David Eason was living the high life as an MTV reality TV show star for their hit success show Teen Mom 2. The only reason that he gained any notoriety though was by dating Janelle Evans, who he eventually married. Because of this, he naturally was just woven into her storyline on the show. Although little did he know just how big of an impact there would be from sending out some tweets. David went on about all of his controversial opinions. Everything from gun control to taking shots at the LGBT community. And because of his comments, he was immediately fired from MTV's hit reality show, and the network even put out a statement saying, David Eason's personal comments do not reflect the views of MTV, adding, with 6 weeks left of production on Teen Mom 2, effective immediately, we are ending our relationship with him. You know who I really feel sorry for in all of this? Michael McCrudden from before they were famous. I mean, isn't he a doppelganger for David Eason? Sorry, Mike, I had to do it. I had to. In at number 8, Brandi Glanville. For those of you who don't know, Brandi Glanville was typically at the center of every dramatic moment on The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. I guess the lady that had wine thrown at her was offering Brandi money for the dinner, then this clearly upset Brandi. I mean, she resorted to tossing wine into her face and then just laughing it off. The incident became infamous, and as you can tell, the rest of the cast really started to hate her after that. After more bickering with her co-stars throughout season 5, she was promptly asked to leave the show. Their biggest complaint was that she just became utterly difficult to work with and therefore made shooting scenes with her a nightmare kinda to sit through. And on the flip side, her defenders say that the show will be awful because at least Brandi brought in some drama to make it interesting. I don't know, we'll have to see. In at number 7, The Situation. Mike the Situation Sorrentino elevated himself to B-list celebrity status when he joined the cast of The Jersey Shore. But the show was wild and dramatic as The Jersey Shore, you'd think that Mike would have gone to prison for something party related. Unfortunately, it was an 8-month stint for tax evasion in 2018. He was then ordered to pay a fine of $10,000 and complete 500 hours of community service. Mike became one of the breakout stars in the show in 2009 simply for lifting up his shirt and showing his abs. I wonder how that reputation worked out for him in prison. I'm guessing not well. Now that he's out though, he will certainly have a difficult time trying to return to reality TV. He has to report regularly to a probation officer, he can't be around any drugs, nor can he even open a new line of credit. I think the only thing that his probation officer allowed him to do was a couple shoots for the reunion show called Jersey Shore Family Vacation. But for the most part, his life as a celebrity is over. In at number 6, Richard Hatch. So way back in the year 2000, yes, 20 years ago, Richard Hatch had outsmarted his competition on the show Survivor. After he made it through the isolated location and won this series of immunity challenges, he went on to take home the grand prize of $1 million. This is all well and good, but remember to use people like Richard as a shining example of what not to do. You see, Richard just deposited his winnings right into his bank account and then did not pay any taxes on his earnings. 2 years after he had won, he was given an indictment for willful evasion. Although because he refused a plea deal and went straight to court, he was found guilty on all 10 criminal counts. Initially, he was looking at serving 47 years in jail, but was only sentenced to 3. After his release, he was given another chance at reality TV in 2009 when he appeared on The Celebrity Apprentice. Although not too long after that he had started on the show, the IRS came knocking again. Except this time, they got him on charges for failing to refile his 2000 and 2001 taxes and neglected to pay an outstanding tax bill of $2 million. He was then sentenced to 9 months in prison, thus missing out on even watching the finale of Celebrity Apprentice and ending his career in reality TV forever. Or indefinitely? Indefinitely.
Number 5, Ronnie Ortiz. Ronnie is one of the spray tan minions on the hit reality series The Jersey Shore. The series follows Snooki and her housemates in Jersey Shore. There's like not much to unpack there. Recently, a revival of the series premiered, now being called Jersey Shore Family Vacation. During one episode of the show, Ronnie was seen cuddling and kissing a lady in a hot tub. Oh, what's wrong with this? Well, his pregnant wife was nowhere to be found. Ronnie admitted in a talking head that it was hard having kids on the way and being with someone that you're not sure you should be with. According to him, women were coming up to him constantly, and he was sick of denying them the goods. He akined it to being in one of those money machines, and it's on, but you just keep your your hands in your pocket when it starts. Several cast members confronted Ronnie on his behavior, and the footage was shared with his wife Jen. Following this, Ronnie went on air and professed his love for a former girlfriend, not even the girl he was with, from 10 years ago. Snooki even spoke up and told him to move on. Like, that's crazy. As of now, Jen and Ronnie are still together. Here's hoping Jen doesn't want another kid though. Who knows what he'll do now? Number 4. Jax Taylor. In season 1 of the show Vanderpump Rules, Jax Taylor and Stacey Schroeder had a rocky relationship, and the whole thing was documented for us all to enjoy. The allegations of him having an affair with fellow castmate Kristen Doubt, the suspicions grew following Kristen's casual acceptance of Jax's history of cheating. She was Stacey's best friend and confronted the pair on several occasions. Both denied the hookup ever taking place until Stacey was finally able to get Jax to confess live on air. The confrontation created one of the most iconic moments in the Vanderpump Rules history. While Kristen kept denying the entanglement, Jax owned up to his actions and provided details for Stacey and a man named Tom Sandoval, who was also dating Kristen at the time. That's right, 2 cheaters for the price of 1. After Stacey was pushed to the brink, she began a physical altercation with Kristen, and when things eventually simmered, Kristen finally admitted the truth and apologized for her mistake. The friendship with Stacey was damaged, but she was thankful to finally know the truth. She no cray cray. Number 3. Kelsey Grammer. You may recognize Kelsey Grammer as Frasier from the hit sitcom of the same name, but to fans of the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, he's the one who cheated on Camille. Real Housewife Camille Grammer accused her husband of cheating with Kate Walsh, who's now his wife. The accusation came on season 1 of the show, and it chronicled their quickly declining love life. Kelsey recalls an instance when he had just recovered from a heart attack and suddenly his mother died. Instead of consoling her husband, Camille yelled at him on the day of her funeral and told him that she wanted a divorce, a conversation they had apparently had several times. The truth was Kelsey did cheat on his wife, as only 2 months following his official divorce from Camille, he married Kate Walsh, and they're still together to this day. In this case, it sounds like cheating got Kelsey out of a rough relationship. Number 2. Dean McDermott. Tori Spelling made a name for herself in the acting world when she portrayed Donna Martin on the show 90210. She met Dean McDermott on the set of Lifetime's Mind Over Murder in 2005, a year after she had married her first husband, Charlie Sheeneen. Dean was also married when they met and had been for about 10 years. He recounts falling hard for Spelling when they met. Then he noticed her wedding ring. Both parties had been unhappy in their marriages, and while their flirting at first had no intention behind it, they eventually woke up together in a room at the Cartier Palace and had no regrets. Well, maybe not yet. In 2013, after welcoming their second son into the world, Us Weekly announced that McDermott had been unfaithful to Tori during her pregnancy. The couple aired out their grievances on Tori's reality show True Tori. However, this scandal only brought them closer together. They began doing couples counseling and have learned to communicate more openly. As of 2023, they seem to be going on strong with 0 incidents of infidelity taking place since. Number 1. Hugh Grant. Hugh got caught cheating in the most public way possible. In 1995, he was arrested after he was caught getting down with a lady of the night in public. Not only is that rough, but he was dating actress and model Elizabeth Hurley at the time. At first, Elizabeth kept quiet and refused to comment until 2 months following his arrest. She went on record saying that she felt like she had gotten shot when she heard what he had done. The night lady, Divine Brown, was hounded by the press over and over for her side of the story, with one outlet even paying her $100,000 for her side. Brown was eventually sentenced for 180 days in jail due to a violation of her probation, while Grant was made to pay a $1,000 fine and attend an education program for medical stuff. During an interview with Jay Leno, Grant went on record claiming that he did abominable things and Liz was amazing about it. Despite what many news outlets were reporting, Elizabeth was very supportive of Grant and the couple tried to work things out. But unfortunately, they officially called it quits in 2000, and now Hugh Grant is a villain for some reason. He's a bad guy in every movie now.
Starting us off at number 10 is Geordie Shore. In January 2018, fans started calling out one of the castmates, Marnie, for celebrating her birthday 3 months in advance on the show. During that time, she had announced she would not be returning for the show, so she had no shame in exposing them by tweeting a response to a fan saying, "It's 'cause it's fake and scripted." She wasn't lying either, because another time a fan posted a picture of a script page on her Twitter that she had found discarded at a restaurant. In the script, you can actually see the discussion points are laid out for the cast, and you can even see Chloe's pre-planned departure from the show, which fans were convinced was totally spontaneous and in the heat of the moment when it happened. I did watch that episode, and I definitely thought that it was happening in that moment. Moving on to number 9 is Love Island. If you haven't watched the show before, a group of men and women do a series of different tasks and dates with a partner that they keep just swapping out until they meet the love of their life. Sounds super realistic. But after one of the seasons, the show was exposed for being fake after an ex-girlfriend came forward with the truth. There was a couple that fans were totally in love with. Danny and Jack got a little shaken up when his ex-girlfriend Ellie was brought into the house. No one knew what was gonna happen. Would he leave Danny for her? Would there be some sort of like chaotic love triangle? Well, Danny told The Sun that she was brought in to split up the lovebirds and that the producers told her to say things that would purposely irritate Danny. She said, producers will tell you when to talk. If they want you to add something or word it differently, they might ask you to change it. So if you thought it wasn't scripted, it is. While the scene is happening live. It's almost like they're improvising some of those scenes. Sliding into number 8 spot is Celebrity Big Brother. Back in 2016, fans were watching the live feed of the show and were stunned when they witnessed that things were actually staged. It sounded like a stage setup had slipped into the live feed on accident when they heard someone wishing all the housemates goodnight as the bedroom lights went off. After all the housemates shouted goodnight in reply, they appeared to go to sleep. But moments later, like literally a second later, the lights suddenly come back on and everyone just piled out of bed again. And the voice of the Big Brother show said, "Great take, guys, great take." You then heard a voice continue to explain to them that the next day was going to be a busy day of shooting. Fans were furious, and Channel 5 responded by insisting still that there is no script and that the show is entirely authentic. In spot number 7 is the popular baking show Cake Boss. During season 1, episode 11, there was a mistake within the episode that showed its viewers it's not as authentic as it claimed to be. People pointed out the scene when Buddy is doing a lobster-themed cake for a bachelor party. When he goes in to talk to his staff, there is a huge 3-tier high cake being worked on in the background, almost complete. But when the scene cuts to him making the parts for the lobster cake, the cake in the back has less tiers, no icing, and no decorations. And it keeps going back and forth between the scenes from decorated 3-tier cake to undecorated smaller cake, which shows us that it's not actually being filmed in order and it's kind of staged and scripted. Moving on to number 6 is Towie, also known as The Only Way is Essex. It's a British reality TV series which claims to be about real people in real situations. But as we have been learning on this list, there are a lot of things in reality shows that are staged or set up before the cameras start rolling. But if you're going to set up a scene for entertainment, you at least have to hide that fact. The show was exposed once a fan pointed out that one of the girls from the show, Megan McKenna, was seen talking on her phone in one scene, but she was actually holding it upside down. I mean, come on. This is pretty embarrassing.
Number 5, The Real Housewives. We're not specifying any one specific season of the series, as the premise of The Real Housewives of blank has been used over and over again and has always been exhausting. The Real Housewives regularly consists of a group of women, usually wealthy, going about their lives, living job-free and ready to bouge it up. As you may expect, rich people kinda suck, so the show was a breeding ground for verbal spats, physical altercations, and a lot of spray tan. The series just exposed the reality of people who are so-called elites as short-tempered toddlers with too much money to spend. Most of the cast that was showcased had little to no redeeming qualities about their personalities, and then in the end just come off as pretty on the outside but sad on the inside. Number 4, Naked and Afraid. First of all, to whoever pitched this show and to whoever agreed to make it, go get some help. Naked and Afraid has one of the most accurate reality show titles in history. The show follows 2 contestants dropped into the middle of the woods with no food, water, or clothes, and they're only given one item to help them survive. Yeah, let's leave people in the forest without clothes or sustenance and film it. That sounds like fun for the whole family. The show exposed a few things in a few ways. Yes, obviously, the contestants were exposed way too much. Seriously, thank God for the power of blurring things out. It also exposed just how little major studios seem to care about the safety of the people that they hired. For instance, the show Survivor shares a similar premise, only they have shelters, they can win food, and everyone's wearing clothes. The idea idea of sleeping in a tent that you fashioned from sticks and leaves completely in your birthday suit sounds like the most uncomfortable experience in the world, unless, you enjoy bugs crawling up your butt. Number 3, 60 Days In. This reality show comes from the channel A&E and first premiered in March 2016. The show followed a number of individuals who have volunteered to spend 60 days in Clark County Correctional to gain inside info on what's happening behind closed bars. The show turned out exactly as you would expect. Stitches got stitches. Not only did these people basically sign up to be the #1 thing that you should never be as a criminal, but the majority of people were unconvincing as inmates and were sniffed out almost immediately. Thankfully, the show had a system in place where participants could opt out of those 60 days if they were feeling unsafe, with one of the fastest dips being less than a day. The show exposed massive issues in the prison system's method of rehabilitation, not to mention the mistreatment of the inmates who, in some cases, are not violent offenders at all and just serving their time. Through the entire 100 episodes of the series, only a handful ever made it the full 60 days. Number 2, The Pickup Artist. VH1, a channel that we've all certainly come to forget by now. VH1 produced some truly questionable reality shows in its lifespan, but today we're covering the worst one of them all. The Pickup Artist was a simple premise. Men would work with pickup coaches in an attempt to gain confidence and meet ladies. They would then send the men into public places and just let them loose while the coaches watched on a screen. This show is just disgusting to say the least. It exposes the toxic mindset that men need to be like alpha males and take what they want. It suggested that women responded to misogynistic comments and inappropriate gestures were considered cute or funny, when in reality these dudes were just the creeps of the crop. The runtime was dedicated to showing the men learning these tactics, which almost always failed them miserably because, hey, it turns out having a tactic to get a woman is pretty gross and they've gotten very good at spotting them. The reality is you can teach someone to be more confident, but you shouldn't do that by making rude comments about women's backsides. I got my girlfriend by walking up to her and dropping a little of the careless whisper. Man, she puts up with a lot from me. Number 1, Snowflake Mountain. Snowflake Mountain is one of the most recent reality shows to premiere on Netflix, and the premise is perfect. This show follows a bunch of spoiled rich kids who were brought to the wilderness under the impression that they will be staying at a luxury cottage near a lake with a 5-star chef ready to cook whenever their hearts desired. The reality was much worse than that. Well, for them. Instead of a luxury cottage, the crew were escorted by survivalists/hosts for the show, Joel Greaves and Matt Tate, to a pretty nice campground with little cottages and a kitchen, and it even had a little outhouse like in the beginning of Shrek. Oh, and they blow up all their suitcases like right at the beginning, just like as a lesson or something. I don't know, it's okay, they all get their stuff back at the end. To me, this sounds like a very relaxing weekend and honestly a solid opportunity to just disconnect from the world, but for these participants, it was literally torture to them. Within the first few hours, the crew were struggling to adjust to life in the woods, being forced to use an outhouse and cook outside. Oh my god, it's so horrible. The reaction from a lot of the participants are hilarious enough, but when someone complains too much or doesn't participate in a group activity, they get sent to Last Chance Lake, where they are forced to camp next to a lake. Like, they make it sound horrifying, but the reality is they just have to spend a night in a tiny tent on the ground and think about their actions. This sounds peaceful to us, but for one contestant, the experience was enough for him to call it quits after just 2 episodes. Thankfully, a few of the participants actually did end up doing super well and left with some new skills and appreciation for what they already had back home, but Snowflake Mountain exposed us to the reality that our so-called next generation is left helpless when stripped of their Wi-Fi and cozy condos. Number 10, Scott Disick. A cheating scandal involving keeping up with the Kardashians? Whoa, how unheard of! Scott has had his claws dug into the Kardashian family for over a decade, despite his constant bad decision-making and partying lifestyle. He appeared as Kourtney's boyfriend on the series premiere of the family reality series and has been a chaotic bad in their lives ever since. In season 2, Kourtney confronts Scott for the first time following the revelation of a series of texts on his old cell phone to someone whose contact was listed as my wife. This led to their first breakup and was the first instance of a public cheating being outed. Now, that wasn't the last one though. The couple would get back together and split over and over, and they even had 3 kids in the process. But Scott has a problem and he can't seem to keep his hands to himself. Literally months after the birth of his 3rd child, he was caught cheating on Kourtney with an ex in Costa Rica. Scott is still involved in the family unit to this day despite his serial cheating, but his presence on the show brings with it just a cloud of cringe. Number 9, Will Smith. Will Smith is a husband, father, and a professional smackmaster. In season 3, episode 12 of the reality TV show Red Table Talk, Jada Pinkett Smith invited her husband Will onto the show. During the interview, the topic of infidelity was brought up, and Will confronted Jada about an alleged relationship between herself and a singer named August Alsina during a brief separation between himself and Jada in 2015. Jada was taken back at first, but then went on to break down what really happened on her end. Following this episode, August went online and claimed that he had to have Will's blessing to be in the relationship, despite the pair technically being separated at that time. Now, Will never mentioned this, and Jada just denies that Will ever gave August permission. But when referring to the situation as an entanglement, Will kinda snapped and he made her correct herself to say the word relationship instead. Her show was eventually cancelled along with the rest of the Smith family. Yeah, you guys should have just kept your drama to yourselves. Number 8. Tristan Thompson. Khloe Kardashian and Tristan Thompson were happily together for quite some time until news of Tristan being seen kissing another woman was revealed on an episode of Keeping Up with the Kardashians. It turns out that Tristan had been seen kissing a woman named Jordan Woods, who at the time was Kylie Jenner's best friend. Khloe's reaction to the event is intense. In clips from the episode, she is seen and heard yelling on a phone and claiming that the scandal had torn her family apart. Okay. Not long after that revelation, Khloe seemed to forgive Tristan, but not Jordan. But they both were equally to blame, so like, why be nice to Tristan? They got back together only for him to cheat on her again 2 years later, and this time the evidence was clear because the woman that he had an affair with birthed his child. Kinda hard to forgive something like that for obvious reasons. They are no longer together, and they're probably better for it. Number 7. Stephen Bear. Celebrity Big Brother is a spin-off of the regular Big Brother reality show in which celebrities are forced to live in a massive air hangar full of furniture from the brick. They compete in various competitions and slowly vote each other out. It's literally a popularity contest. In one season, a celebrity named Stephen Bear, who has basically just been on reality shows, began a steamy fling with his fellow housemate Chloe Khan, who is a model. They were together on the show for 3 weeks until one night a little twist came through the door. A twist by the name of Lily Lexi Gregg, Bear's longtime girlfriend and famous fashion designer. She confronted him the moment she stepped into the house. She said she needed to look him in the eyes when she told him what he did to her. Bear looks stunned when she comes in, and it probably doesn't help that he has like a small stack of donuts on his head when she does. It's kind of funny. Lily and Bear were together for several months before he entered the Big Brother house, with Lily claiming that she literally walked him to the front door and had to go home to his family. After learning of the romance sparking in the house, she reached out to producers and she got herself a spot in the hangar. Following the confrontation, Bear dumped Lexi in front of the entire house and the entire world, claiming that the experience made him realize that he wanted to be single and explore possible relationships. Okay man, oldest excuse in the book, bud. Number 6. Lamar Odom. Lamar Odom is a former NBA pro and he was married to Khloe Kardashian in 2009. And it seems Khloe just can't catch a break. In a sneak peek of his new documentary presented by TMZ, Lamar shared the fact that there is still plenty the public doesn't know about his serial cheating during his relationship to Khloe. While married to Khloe, Odom would have a slew of random women come through the house, sometimes multiple people at once. He also admits to having full-blown relationships while he was traveling with the NBA. Khloe discovered that Lamar was trying to cover his tracks by using her assistant's phone to message women behind her back. This caused her to go full-blown detective mode. Herself and momager Kris Jenner decided to take matters into their own hands and followed Odom to a hotel where he was caught cheating for the first time. They caught him surrounded by several women while under the influence of heavy substances, and despite this, the relationship continued until 2013 when Khloe finally had enough and called it quits. Lamar has recently come forward calling his actions embarrassing and hopes to reconnect with Khloe in the near future, but he's also claimed to have been with over 2,000 women, so I don't know, maybe she should just steer clear of that one.
In number 5, Josh Duggar. The Duggar family had a very clear branding when they debuted their show called 19 Kids and Counting. With a family that large, it was important to Jim, Bob, and Michelle that they keep their religious values close. Due to them being part of the independent Baptist community, the family always took pride in their kids being morally responsible, although their family name would soon become less well known for that and more widely talked about because of what their son Josh Duggar did in 2015. In 2015, news broke that their son Josh had sexually abused several young girls as a teenager, which included some of his own sisters. The family was scheduled to appear on Oprah, but after the news broke, she canceled the spot immediately. Following that, his charges were dropped because they were beyond the statute of limitations. Although this was more than enough negative press for TLC to just cut ties with the show, well, cut ties, I sang it lightly, they canceled the show. The real nail in the coffin for Josh and his family though was when Gawker released the list of people subscribed to the website Ashley Madison. Sure enough, his name appeared and he was forced to admit his infidelities. In at number 4, Thomas Ravenel. Fans of the Bravo show Southern Charm will remember this guy quite well. Fans were used to Thomas and his short temper, but they were certainly taken aback when he was arrested in 2018 for assault and battery in the second degree. The craziest part was that his victim actually appeared on the show as well. In the series, she is known as Nanny Dawn, and according to her, Thomas had corralled her into his bedroom, dropped his pants, and even blocked the doorway so that she couldn't escape. Following these allegations, Bravo immediately cut him from the show, and according to one insider, his former co-stars were happy to have him gone. To further destroy his career on reality TV, Thomas pleaded guilty to third-degree assault and battery. In at number 3, Hulk Hogan. Hulk Hogan, whose real name is just Terry, used to be on top of the world when he was a wrestler with the WWE. From there, he even had his own reality TV show with his family that abruptly ended upon getting divorced, and his kids kind of getting into their own trouble. Although whatever career he had left on reality TV is long gone after his racist rants were released. Allegedly, his daughter had started dating a black man, and this just made Hulkamania run wild. Along with that, his career was already in turmoil after a sex tape was released of him and Heather Cole. Heather was the wife of his good friend Bubba the Love Sponge, who Terry then sued along with Heather, believing that they had set him up to turn a profit on his sex tape. Following that, much of his time was caught up going to court over his defamation suit against the news outlet known as Gawker. Great special on Netflix if you want to watch that one. That's as close as he's getting to reality TV. One special on Netflix. In at number 2, Ryan DeNino. Long before shows like 90 Day Fiancé, we had the series called Married at First Sight. The show aired on FYI, A&E, as well as Lifetime, and certainly was not a show for the faint at heart. The cast members on the show would literally meet a complete stranger and then head straight for the altar. Yes, they literally had people getting married at first sight. I don't know who thinks of these ideas, but man, oh man, do they need somebody around like Toby Flenderson from The Office to just go, I don't think that's a good idea. During season 2, we were introduced to Ryan DeNino, who was matched up with Jessica Castro. At first glance, they appeared to be a perfect couple, but the cracks in this already unstable foundation really began to show. An audio recording was released where you can actually hear Ryan threatening to kill his new wife and her family. Following this, Castro requested a restraining order, and he was charged with harassment, menacing, and stalking. Coming in at our number 1 spot, Sherry Pie. For RuPaul's Drag Race Season 12, they were burdened by a very strong accusation against one of their performers. Contestant Sherry Pie was axed from the show after he allegedly tried to groom and catfish 5 men. He had pretended to be a casting director and asked each of these men to send in videos of them doing very degrading things. I can't even mention them here. Although upon the victims doing further research into this supposed casting director, they discovered that it was all just fake. The issue with taking Joey, who plays Sherry Pie, off the show though was that Sherry had won most of the competitions, so he couldn't just be easily edited out. Sherry Pie had apologized and admitted that his behavior was terribly embarrassing, but regardless, he was disqualified from the show, and the producers did their very best to remove kind of most of the images, just giving him a very minimal amount of screen time. What are you gonna do? Cancel the whole season? You can't cancel season 12.
Number 10, Too Hot to Handle. Netflix is slowly becoming the place to find the trashiest TV shows that we just can't stop watching. While we were all stuck at home in 2020, Netflix was hard at work producing this little gem of a toxic TV show called Too Hot to Handle. The show brought together a group of what they called serial swipers, people who were very open about their, well, openness with other people. The aim was to bring 10 people to a beautiful resort on the ocean with the promise of fun under the sun, no juice, and of course, love making. Well, too bad so sad. The moment that they were comfortable on the island, the rug would be pulled from underneath their feet, and a little Google Home named Alana would appear to inform them that they were prohibited from participating in any physical relations of any kind. If they could do this for 1 month, everyone in the house got to split a $100,000 cash prize. Now, while this sounds easy to you or me, this show exposed just how little self-control some people really have. During their time on the island, the crew would participate in group therapy sessions and relationship building exercises, as the goal of the show was to rehabilitate these people into being able to have successful long-term relationships instead of just one-night flings. While the show did produce a few relationships that are still together today, the majority of contestants ignored these rules immediately, to the point where in season 3, a couple named Nathan and Holly received over $200,000 in financial penalties for breaking every single rule of the show multiple times. Season 3's grand prize was $200,000. These people spent it like in a week. Hey pretty people, the beach is right there. Why don't you just go like swim for a month and let everybody get some money? Number 9. Catfish. No, we're not talking about the delicious deep-fried treat that you were probably hoping for. Catfish is a long-running series on MTV. It's the only other show that comes on the channel between ridiculousness and ridiculousness. The series follows Nev Campbell and his best friend slash cameraman, Max Joseph, as they help people who are in online relationships to meet their significant others face to face. But it's called catfish because, well, the majority of these situations end up being completely fabricated. Catfishing is when someone makes a fake profile online with the intent to mislead people or extort them for something. Many of the people that they brought on the show had been in long-distance relationships for years online, meaning for years they were being scammed and lied to. The show usually climaxes with the crew confronting the alleged catfish and exposing those who may try to do similar things in the future. Thankfully, there have been a few good moments on the show where either the person was who they said they were, or the looks just simply didn't matter. Some people just fell in love with the person that they were typing with and not their specific profile. And some people get catfished by your cousins because you commented on their weight a few years ago. That was a weird one. Number 8. Love is Blind. Oops, I didn't see you there. Love is Blind is another reality gem from Netflix, this time following 15 men and women looking for love. And the twist? Well, they initially meet each other through a wall in separate rooms, being on literal blind dates. This premise is cute as it sets up some really genuine connections made without the need of seeing how attractive your future partner may be. The show produced a pretty impressive amount of genuine connections in long-lasting relationships, but it also revealed just how chaotic people can be. In season 1, a contestant named Jessica stole the show for being the literal embodiment of Chardonnay. She was always seen with a glass in her hand and a song in her heart. She became infatuated with a man named Mark. Their conversations were flowing so well through the wall that it was a no-brainer, but when she met him in person, she was noticeably disappointed with Mark's appearance. She also told us that she was disappointed and claimed that Mark wasn't her usual type. Over that season, Jessica would constantly go too hard on the no-no juice and yell at Mark, telling him how much she didn't want to be with him. They had a lot of fights and ultimately didn't end up getting married, which, oh, by the way, is what happens at the end of each of the seasons. They're supposed to decide if they want to get married, keep dating, or just break up live on TV. She wasn't the only example of this premise not working though. As expected, with every subsequent season has come a slew of chaotic bads that we love to hate, with the most recent season starring a man who is just the concept of misogyny in a tiny package. Number 7. Bachelor in Paradise. Bachelor in Paradise is a spin-off series of the popular reality shows The Bachelor and The Bachelorette, in which one man or woman lives in a house with 24 prospective lovers of the opposite gender and slowly whittles their way down to one final contestant. The show first aired in 2002 and has been pumping out new seasons every single year. But in 2014, the producers decided to capitalize on their past and invite former bachelors and bachelorettes from previous seasons to appear live on an island together in an attempt to find a fiancé. Since 2014, this show has been nothing but a prime example on how little people care about others' feelings. Many contestants on the show would pair up with someone within the first few days, but as many dating shows like to do, they brought people in halfway through the experience to test the loyalty of the already existing couples. And of course, 9 times out of 10, those contestants would abandon their previous relationships almost immediately for the fresh new meat. So much of the show's runtime is dedicated to just watching people cry because the person they were cuddling with that morning are now with a new girl chilling on the daybed. The worst thing with shows like this is not only do these people have to endure a fair amount of heartache, but every single tear is filmed for the world to see and scar them for the rest of their love lives. Number 6. 90 Day Fiancé. This show is just, it's so good. 90 Day Fiancé is a show that has aired on TLC since 2014. The premise of the show followed people from foreign countries who have applied for a K-1 visa, offered to fiancés and fiancées of American citizens with the prospect of becoming married within 90 days of their stays in the States, hence the title. The prospective fiancés would fly in to meet their possible future husbands or wives. The show has produced some of the most obvious cases of fake relationships and people being used as a means to gain citizenship. Most of the couples consisted of the US citizen being a little more mature than the future fiancé. Age difference aside though, most of these people had little to nothing in common, and most of the relationships ended in no marriages and a long plane ride home. See, this program showcased the exact lengths some people will go to get away from the harsh situations that they have at home. Many of the foreign fiancés are trying to make a new start in a safer place than where they're used to. Maybe we should give them more than like 90 days to adjust to that new life and fall in love. I'm just saying.
Alright guys, we are halfway through and we have The Hills. If you're anything like me, you spent all of your high school years binge watching this show, hoping and wishing that you were a part of it. It was totally convincing, and I feel confident saying that we all thought, or at least hope, that it was real, until the series finale twist ending. They end with Kristen Cavallari and Brody Jenner having this emotional goodbye because she's apparently leaving the city. But then the director yells, "Cut," and the camera zooms out to expose that the whole thing was staged. Like the Hollywood sign was literally a fake prop, the car was on a set, the whole thing was staged. But then, to confuse us, the cast started talking, saying that that was done on purpose to leave the audience with the question, was it real or was it fake? But since it's been so many years since the show, the cast has felt more comfortable talking about it, and Kristen told the audience on Andy Cohen's talk show, I quote, "I can tell you most of my stuff wasn't real. I'm just happy that more people are coming out and saying that stuff isn't real because for the longest time, it was only me." I really believe this. I really believed that it was all real. Rolling into number 4 spot is the series Haunted. Fans tuned into the Netflix series because it was said to tell true stories that have never been solved or explained before. The show's producers have said that the stories and people involved are 100% true. But after one of the episodes titled Slaughterhouse, the show was exposed for not being truthful. The episode told the horrifying story of an uncaught serial killer who allegedly took the lives of victims in upstate New York. But fans started questioning how people died from these events without the police getting involved. The showrunners said that they reached out to the authorities but didn't receive any feedback. However, some digging was done. The director of public information, Bo Duffy, said, "I spoke with our Bureau of Criminal Investigation and they have not received any information from the producers or Netflix in regards to the alleged crimes that were portrayed on this program." Obviously, if these crimes did take place, I feel like the police would know about it. Falling into the 3rd spot is Hell's Kitchen. For a while, people have suspected that the show's drama is staged for entertainment purposes, which is somewhat true. Gordon Ramsay really does go hard on people for making mistakes in his kitchen. Speaking of the kitchen, the restaurants you see on the show, where the fancy cars pull up to and celebrities like to eat in every episode, that's fake. It's actually a soundstage. According to TV Guide, everything at the Hell's Kitchen soundstage is exaggerated for TV, and since it's not a real restaurant, the customers aren't real either. They're actually real people, but they're usually connected to the cast and crew of that season. A contestant from season 6 came forward saying, "The customers are friends and family of the production crew. They aren't random people." Taking over our number 2 spot is Judge Judy. I am one of the victims to this show because I thought that it was genuine and real, but got completely fooled after finding out that the cases are not real. Former participants from the show admitted that they created their entire case in order to receive settlement money that the show pays and also a free trip to LA. They spoke with Vice and said that the Judge Judy production team doesn't do deep background checks, so if your story sounds good enough, they will invite you on the show. They also admitted that the producers knew it was a made-up story and even told them that they can comp their meals as long as it's at different restaurants from each other, because then the production team would obviously know that the lawsuits against each other, like a married couple fighting, would not be real. So you're telling me that I can just make up a lawsuit and get on the Judge Judy show for some money and a free trip to LA? In our number 1 spot is America's Got Talent. It's been said that the show alters what we see on the TV version of the show and that the judges' votes don't actually decide who stays on the show and who leaves. But we did get some confirmation of part of these claims after a YouTuber named Captain Delusionman exposed the show for altering how we view the contestants. He used his knowledge and video skills to prove a magic trick that was aired on TV was actually edited. The tricks are edited and altered to exaggerate the magic more, such as adding in freeze frame for effect or editing something for a disguise. He also proved that there was a giveaway part in the trick and it was edited out from the TV version, so what we see on TV is not actually what the live audience is seeing.